Hey everyone, it's Jill the Wandering Stamper coming to you from Lakeland, Florida. We have decided to stay in one place for a few months so that we can spend some time with our parents who live very close by. So I am looking forward to being able to have all of my stamp stuff out all the time so I can do lots of crafting. And as you can see behind me, it's sort of a rainy day, so it's a great day to be indoors and play with my new stamps. So today we have a tower fold card that I'm going to show you how to make, and it is using the beautiful translucent flowers suite of products. So I'm really excited to show you those. They're so pretty. They're going to be really nice for spring. And this fold is great for Christmas cards, birthday cards, anything you want. And I'll show you some variations of this fun fold that I created. And of course, after you watch this video, check out my blog. I will have all of my cutting instructions and measurements and everything on there, and some photos so that you can have that at your fingertips anytime you want to craft. So let me turn the camera down and we'll get started. Thank you so much for joining me today. So I have everything laid out ready for us to begin, and I wanted to show you what we're going to be working with. I have grabbed the translucent florals suite of products. I absolutely love these. They're so pretty. These flowers are so interesting, and the way the stamps are created, you get this really vivid image that's two-toned all by stamping one time. So it's a really creative way to look like you spent a lot of time coloring in. These stamps are really great. And then with the suite of products comes lots of dies. I have some pulled out that we're going to be using, so you can use these dies on the designer series paper and on the stamps. Super pretty. So we will be using those. I have some coordinated ink that goes along with the paper that I pulled out. I have some Berry Burst, some Blackberry Bliss, some Granny Apple Green, and some Lemon Lime Twist. So we're going to be using that ink. And then I have some paper from the Glorious Gingham pack. I use this all the time, and I save all my scraps because I'm always using them. But this has such pretty colors in it, and they go really well with the stamp set. And you have a really small plaid on one side, or checkered pattern on one side, and then a larger pattern on the other. So even interchanging these in one card looks really pretty. So we're going to use this color, and we're coordinating that with the Blackberry Bliss and the Fresh Freesia, and of course Whisper White. And then I'm using this piece of paper from the Designer Series paper pack. It's really, really pretty. As you know, all of Stampin' Up's paper is double-sided, so you have these beautiful floral patterns and even leaves on one side, and then on the back of the paper you have these beautiful background colors that you can use on the reverse side of your card. So everything coordinates. And a little tip in case you've never thought about it, on the back of all of your Designer Series paper, you have a list of all of the ink colors and paper colors that go along with this pack. So what I do when I'm going to work with a pack of paper is I just pull all of those colors. So this one has Berry Burst, Blackberry Bliss, Bubble Bath, Calypso Coral, Fresh Freesia, Lemon Lolly, Parakeet Party, Pool Party, and Pretty Peacock. So I'll pull those colors, and then that way I don't have to keep getting up and down and getting my paper, because my paper is in a different part of my RV, because of course I don't have a stamp room. Space is precious in an RV, but I just pull what I need and bring it out, and then that way if I switch my mind on what I want to create, I've already got all of my coordinated products with me. So as I mentioned, we're going to be using this piece, and it really looks pretty together with the checked pattern. So we'll be using that. And then I also pulled the brushed brass butterflies because I think they go really well with flowers. So we're going to be using those as some embellishments. So let's get started with this card. And I will have all of the cutting instructions and how to assemble it on my blog after the video. So look for that because there are some steps involved in this card with the scoring and the cutting, and you'll want to make sure that you grab those. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut my base. So I'm going to get my paper cutter out. And the base is going to be 5.5 by 8.25. So I like to cut my 5.5 first, because then this is a half a sheet of paper and I can use it for another card, whether I make 2 of these cards or if I'm going to use that for another card later, I haven't cut it smaller than necessary. And then I pull the arm out. Actually, since I'm only cutting 8 1/4, and I know this sheet of paper was 8 1/2, I'm just going to cut 1/4 inch off the end so I don't have to swing my arm out, because I know you can't really see that anyway since we're in a small space. Just changed my blade so it's nice and sharp, but I didn't put it all the way on the track. There we go. So I'm cutting 1/4 inch off of this, but you want your paper to be 5 1/2 by 8 1/4. This is an 8 1/2 sheet of paper, so I'm just cutting 1/4 inch off. So there's our 5 1/2 by 8 1/4. So now on the 8 1/4 side, put that on your tray on the long side at the top of your paper cutter, and then you're going to score at 1 inch. And then you're going to score at 2 inches. And I'm just scoring all the way down. Then you're going to score at 3 inches. And then you're going to move it over and score at 5 1/4 inches. Then you're going to score at 6 1/4 inches. So I'm going to have to pull out my arm here. And the 6 1/4 inch mark is like right where it folds. So you just kind of have to look at it. Look for it. And then 7 1/4. Okay. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 5 1/4, 6 1/4, 7 1/4. All right. So once you have all of those score lines done, now you're going to do some cutting. So this is the tricky, it's not really tricky, you just have to be mindful. So we're going to turn it now onto the 5 1/2 inch side, and here's our score lines. They go horizontally. So we're going to do some vertical cuts. All right. So we're going to put it first on the 1 inch mark, and we're only going to be cutting between our 1 inch score line and our 3 inch score line. So we have our 1 inch score line, our 2 inch score line, and our 3 inch score line. So we're scoring from the 1 to the 3. That's it. So we're going to put it on the 1 inch score line. Now remember, your paper cutter has markings on it. So you just put that little line on the 1 inch side, and it's okay if you don't get far enough, or if you go a little bit over, it still folds just fine. And then you're going to push it down and then score down to that 3 inch line. So remember, we're scoring, or we're not scoring, we're cutting 1 inch to 3 inch. And then what I do is I open it up and look, make sure I did it. See, I went over that one a little bit, but that's okay. It's not going to hurt anything. Now I'm going to move my cutter up to the 2 inch line, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to put it, and it's hard for me. It's a lot easier to do this when you don't have a camera in the way. So I'm trying not to put my head in the way. So it's a little bit harder for me to do it. You will have an easier time doing this than I am. All right, so there you go. So 1 inch, 2 inch. Now we're going to do, sorry, I'm looking at my notes to make sure I don't get this wrong. Now we're going to go to 3 1/2 inches and do the same thing. So I'm putting this on the 1 inch line, scoring down to the 3 inch line. And then I just kind of pick it up and look, that was perfect. And then the last one is 4 1/2 inches, and I'll go over these in a second. And I'm going back up to the 1 inch. And I usually just go from top to bottom, bottom to top, because I've already got it where I left off. So it's easier for me, but you do whatever works. All right. So we put a cut line at the 1 inch mark, at the 2 inch mark, at the 3 1/2 inch mark, and at the 4 1/2 inch mark. Now we're going to turn our paper and do the exact same thing to the other side. So I'm putting this on the 1 inch mark, scoring down to 3, the 2 inch mark, the 3 1/2 inch mark, and again I just peek at it and make sure I cut far enough, because I'm trying not to put my head in the way. I'm in a little bit weird angle doing this. Okay, so 1, 2, 3.5, 4.5. So now all of your cutting and scoring is done. So I am going to show you how to go ahead and fold it now. So you've got all of your cuts and your scores. So now we're going to have our bone folder handy, and we're going to fold the first piece up like this and score it. These are the two ends. So I fold those like a valley fold. All right. So then once you have that, now the ends are going to fold mountain folds, and the second pieces are going to fold valley fold, and the middle piece is going to be a mountain fold. So it's going to fold like that. So mountain, valley, mountain, valley, mountain. So just tighten that up, give it a little burnish with your bone folder. It's going to make it the rest of the card a lot easier for you. And then we're going to do the same thing for the other side. So we've got mountain fold and valley fold. And if you get these two outsides folded like a mountain, the middle one automatically wants to go up. So just give that a little pinch and then just fold forward. It's super easy. It looks complicated when you first look at it, but it's quite easy. So there we go. So that is the back of our card. This is, wait a minute. Whoop, that is the front of our card. Okay. So, wait a minute. I make myself crazy. I did it backwards. See? I did it backwards. Wait a minute. Oh, okay. One more step. Sorry. There we go. So you have to manipulate this a little bit. All right. So what I did wrong is I forgot to fold this part. All right. So this is the way it should look when you have it folded correctly. All right. So there's the back. Here's the front. So what I needed to do was just fold this a little bit. All right. So just play with it. If you have a scrap sheet of printer paper, do your template on that and fold it, and that will help you so you don't fold a piece of cardstock wrong. And then when the card folds up, it folds up like this and it fits in an envelope perfectly. And it stands up great. So we have this piece cut and folded, so we're going to set this aside, and now we're going to cut the other pieces for our card. So we're going to start out with the layers of cardstock. So I am going to use, where did I put it? Here it is. So I'm using the Blackberry Bliss for my back layer of my background cardstock, I should say. So I'm going to cut that 5 3/8 by 7/8. I'm going to need 4 of those. And those are going to go on the front and back of this long piece. So that's why you need 4. So what did I say? 5 3/8 by 7/8. So I'm going to cut it this way. So 5 3/8. So I'm going to cut 5 3/8. And then 7/8. And if it's easier, a lot of time I'll cut my 7/8 on this side because I can hold the paper with my left hand. Put it on 7/8, and I'm going to cut 1, 2, 3, and 4. So those are those 4. And then we're going to cut 1 at 4 1/8 by 1 3/8. So I think I'm always trying to use my paper to the best of my advantage. So on this one, I'm going to do 4 1/8 by 1 3/8. So I'm going to do my 1 3/8. 1, 2, 3/8. And then my 4 1/8. Just trying to get as much bang for my buck out of that half sheet of paper. So there's that piece. And then we need 2 pieces cut at 4 1/8 by 7/8. So 4 1/8 by 7/8. So those are those pieces. So now I have these 3 big pieces to use for another card, which is always my plan. So for the cutting for the designer series paper, it's going to layer on this. So I'm using this pattern to go on these pieces. And then I'm using the checked pattern for the other pieces. You can do it however you want. So this is a non-directional pattern, so I don't have to worry about direction. So these pieces are going to be cut at 5 1/4 by 3/4. So I am going to cut the 3/4 first. I'm going to do 2 of those, and I'll show you why. Because this is 12 by 12 paper, now I can put these 2, you can cut 2 layers of designer series paper together. So if you're comfortable doing it that way, go for it. If not, you can just cut them separately. But we're doing 5 1/4 by 3/4, and we need 4. So this is 12-inch paper. So I should be able to get 4 out of 2 pieces. So 5 1/4 and 5 1/4. So that way I didn't cut a big chunk of paper out. Okay. And I'll actually save these little pieces for something else. So there's my 4 pieces, and they're going to layer perfectly on these. So I'm going to set those together. And then we're going to cut our next piece. We're going to set this aside, and I've made 2 cards off of this, and I still have like 8 inches, 8 by 12 of this paper. So it goes a long way with this card. So now we're going to cut this piece, and these are going to be 4 by 1 1/4. I only need 1. So I'm going to do 4 inches by 1 1/4, and I could have just, I'm going to do it this way, 4 inches by 1 1/4. Okay, and that is layering right here. And then we're going to do 2 of them, 4 inches by 3/4. 4 inches, oh, look at that. That ended up being 3/4. Love it when that works out. And then we need 2 more. So this is 4 inches, or 1 more, we need 1 more. There we go. All right, so I'll go through this again. So 2 of these are gonna be 4 inches by 3/4 inches. You're going to have 1 piece that is 4 inch by 1 1/4 inches, and you're going to have 4 pieces at 5 1/4 by 3/4. So 4 pieces, 1 piece, 2 pieces. So then the last thing we want to do is our front and back cardstock for putting our message on the back and then decorating on the front. So we're going to cut 2 pieces of white, Whisper White or basic white. I call it Whisper White because that's what it used to be called. 5 1/4 by 2. So I'm going to cut 5 1/4 by 2 inches. We're cutting 2 of these, 1 for the front and 1 for the back. And then we want to also cut another piece of Blackberry Bliss, slightly larger, and that's going to be 5 3/8 by 2 1/8. So let's do 2 1/8. By 5 3/8. And make sure that was going to work. 5 3/8. So 1 for the front and 1 for the back. Okay? So now we have all of our layers, all of our cutting. Is that right? That is not right. 2 1/8 by 5 3/8. Did I cut that too big? What did I do? I think I cut this wrong. Let's see. I did. I cut it 1/8, 1/4 of an inch too small. Silly me. All right, we'll do this again. It's okay. I'll be using that to stamp on. So 5 1/4 by 2. Don't know how I did that. It happens, right? And I'm not going to redo it because I want you to know I'm human and I make mistakes, just like you do. 2 inches. Okay. So that's better. Perfect. Okay, so we have all of our pieces cut. Now it's time for some fun assembly and stamping. Get all of our paper out of the way. All right. So I'm going to grab my silicone craft sheet. So now we're going to start adding these layers to our card. So I'm going to start out with these 4 strips of designer series paper with the 4 strips of cardstock. And I'm going to use some Stampin' Seal here. I just put a new one on here and still getting going on it. So you're just layering these on. There's a very small border, and these thin strips are actually quite easy to line up. And again, this is non-directional. If you're using a directional paper, you just want to be mindful that everything's adhered onto the actual card base the same direction. Two. When I first looked at this card fold, at first I thought, I don't think I'm going to do it. It looks complicated. And then once I tried it, once I stopped being a baby and decided to try it, it was actually quite easy. And I really enjoy it. I really enjoy this fold. So don't be afraid to try something. Sometimes when you first look at it, it's hard to wrap your head around whether it's going to be really hard or really simple, and just try it. If you try it, you don't like it, no problem, don't make any more, but give it a try, you'll be surprised. So now I'm doing the next 2 pieces. I'm just going to go ahead and add all of my layers so that it's done. Stampin' Up! Just released a whole bunch of new online exclusives. Stampin' Up! Is doing that a little bit more now. That's sort of their new thing they do, is instead of having so many things in the catalog, they're going to have a little less in the catalog, but a lot more coming out that's special throughout the year that you can only get online. So I kind of think that's going to be a lot of fun because it's sort of like a big surprise, like what kind of products are they going to release, and it actually will give you a lot more options than just what's in the catalog or in the mini catalogs when those come out. So I think you'll be happy with that selection. I am. I really enjoy it. So there's all of my pieces. They're all adhered. So now we're going to start putting them on. So I'm going to start out with the middle piece. I'm going to use my Stampin' Seal Plus for this just because I know it's a little heavier. And I want to make sure, because I know people who get my cards like to play with them. And I want to make sure it doesn't fall apart. This is a pretty sturdy card though, surprisingly. So this larger piece goes in the middle, and then the next 2 pieces are going to go here and here, like that. This card comes together really easily. And you can make it really, really elaborate or pretty simple, and it looks great either way. And the nice thing is by adding these 3 layers, it really makes this card nice and sturdy, especially with all of the folding and scoring that we did. It gets super sturdy when you add these extra layers. So I'm just lining all of this up as straight as possible. It's actually pretty easy to do. I'm just at a weird angle. Sometimes I think maybe I should move this camera to my island, my kitchen island, and stand. It might be a little easier sometimes. And now we're going to be adding these pieces to the sides and back. See how pretty that contrast is? I really love it. So I'm just adding, this adhesive is super strong. So I just kind of do the same thing. Just, it's super easy to line up. And since it's non-directional, it doesn't matter which way they go, they look good anyway. So I just kind of look at it and figure out visually what I like the best. Honestly, I could probably put it upside down and the people who get my card would still love it. So I don't know about you, but sometimes I nitpick at some of the things I see, and the person who gets the card never notices it. So I've tried to teach myself not to get so worried about how perfect it is, because most people don't notice the little things that I know that are there. I used to be a paralegal, but then I had my own embroidery and screen print business, which I loved because I love being creative. And I remember knowing about little tiny flaws in some of the work, and it drove me crazy, and I just get so worried the customer wouldn't be happy. They never noticed it. So those little flaws were more about me than them. I was just such a perfectionist. All right, so we've got all of our layers on except for the middle and the back. So now we're going to do some stamping. So we're going to set this aside. I'm going to grab my scrap paper, and what I'm going to do, I don't like to add my layers until I've done my stamping, so that if I have a boo-boo, I can fix it. So the first thing I'm going to do is work on the front. And I'm going to grab, I want to show you a little trick. These are the stamps I'm using, and I take my biggest block and I pull out all my stamps I want to use, and I stick them on this block because now I have them all at my fingertips and I don't have to keep going to my box and pulling out what I want. So I have them all pulled, and then I went ahead and I pull all my dies ahead of time as well. So these are the dies I'm using. And by the way, these dies work as well for some of the flowers that are on the designer series paper. So you can actually die cut some of the designer series paper as well. I love when Stampin' Up! Does that. So what we're going to do is add I'm going to make this a birthday card. It's going to say happy birthday. So I'm going to grab that stamp, and I'm going to grab the Blackberry Bliss ink. And with these cling stamps, a lot of time I will put a little mat down to give it a little extra cushion. I feel like sometimes that works really well. I'm having a little problem with this stamp pad. I don't know if you could see it. It has little bumps, and I did read recently that you could take a spoon and rub down these bumps. I have a little problem sometimes stamping because it wants to show up on my stamps. So hopefully that won't happen. I've got to fix that. So I'm putting happy birthday, hopefully without putting my head in the camera, down here. Perfect. I stamp off a little so that I don't muddy up my cleaner, my stamp pad cleaner. Over here I have it just off camera. All right. That is done. So that is all the stamping I'm doing on this front piece. So now I want to show you, I'm going to add some die cut pieces. So I went ahead and die cut a few things. I'm going to use this piece. Look how pretty. So the way these stamps are created, you ink it up and it automatically stamps two-toned. I love that. It's so pretty. So this is the Granny Apple Green. This is the Blackberry Bliss. And I also did this in Blackberry Bliss, but I also did some in Lemon Lime Twist, and I haven't decided which I like better, so I'm going to cut these out. And then I've got two pieces there, and then I've got these. I think I'm going to cut these out. I'll show you really quickly how to do that in case you're not familiar with the die cutting. This is the larger one. They also have a small one. I just have the large one because I do a lot of die cutting and it works for everything. But if you typically only die cut small pieces, you can get the smaller version of this. Let me pull my camera up a little bit. You get the smaller version of this that's a little more compact. Thankfully, it's not too big for the RV. So I'm gonna put my plates in here. And a little tip, I went ahead and grabbed out my dies. I'll now show you. This is one of the flowers. See, I have little dots on my stamp pad. Well, you can't even see that. Look at that. I'm not even in the camera view. So I have little dots on my stamp pad and they show up on the flower, but on this flower it actually looks pretty good. So what I like to do is put my die exactly where I want it, and you can do one of two things. I have this fabulous tape. I use it over and over and over again. It is, and I have it in a link on my website under craft room must-haves. It's Post-it labeling and cover-up tape. It lasts a long time. In one piece, I'll use it over and over until it kind of wears out. So you can use that really to hold your dies in place, and it works really well. The other thing you can use, if you have washi tape works really well too. And so I just kind of place this where it looks good. And you can grab your washi tape, and again, you can use that a lot. I find the washi tape sometimes sticks a little bit more, so you have to be careful that you don't tear your paper, but both of them work. So I tape that down, crank it through. I couldn't live without this die cutting machine. And I love that it folds up. I used to have the Sizzix back when that was the die cutting machine of choice, and it's great, except see how pretty that is? Cuts out perfectly. So taping down your dies really helps you get exactly where you want to cut. And then I just stick my tape back up here so I can use it again. So there's my dies. And I'm not going to cut this second one out. I'll use that one for later. But I just wanted to show you how easy that is. And this folds up like that, so it doesn't take up a ton of space, which is great when you're working in a small space like I do. Okay, so we have our pieces done. So what I like to do is, let me grab this back out, is I like to lay out my pieces the way I think that, I'm looking for my die cuts, there we go, the way I think I'll like them. So I'm going to put, I think, this one here, and I'm going to let it hang off a little, because when this card folds up, it can hang off. So you just want to be mindful where you're going to put your adhesive. And I think I'll do the Blackberry Bliss. Or actually, I could do this piece down here. Just kind of play with it and decide where you want everything. So I think I do that. And then I wanted to decide, actually think I like the lighter color. Put that there and maybe add that there. So I kind of get an idea of where I want everything. So then I'll set them aside and start assembling. So I'm going to glue this down flat and not use any dimensionals on this piece. I think I'll use my liquid glue. So I know I don't want to put any glue over here on this leaf because I don't want it to hang over. So just kind of figure out where you want your glue to go. I'm going to use liquid glue so that I can move it around a little more if I need to. And I'm going to put this about right there. And then I'm going to use some dimensionals to build up the rest of my pieces. And let's see. I keep all of my little extra sheets that just have border on them. I'm going to use up some of those today because I like to use every bit of my dimensional paper. So whenever you cut these up, make sure you use your scissors that are allotted for sticky things, because these are sticky. But I just take, when I'm done with all the middle, I just take my scissors and cut these ends. They're like half dimensionals, and I'll use those. So I'm going to grab take your pick tool and just pop these on wherever I feel like I need them. It's a great way to use up product and not waste anything. I'm all about not wasting. Sometimes it's hard enough for me to get things in the mail. I don't want to have to keep ordering these if I still have bits I can use. So I'm going to pull these backs off. If you haven't noticed, this take your pick tool is the bomb. It keeps all of my little papers out of the way, and it's so easy to take them off. Okay, so I'm just going to figure out where I want to have that. I think I'm going to put it here. So it gives it a little height. And then the next thing I'm going to do is add this one. As you can see, I used the back of a piece of paper, of scrap paper that I had, scrap cardstock that I had already had a boo-boo on. Why waste it? Just stamp on the other side of it. Okay. So I think I'm going to put that maybe right here. So now I can just put a little glue on these and just pop them in wherever I want. So I'm going to, I'm messy with the glue, so I'm going to grab this. And I think I'm going to glue one of the lighter ones and one of the darker ones. I'm just adding a little glue to the back. This liquid glue holds really well. And now I can just pop this in wherever. So I think I'm going to put this one here. And maybe we'll put, I'll put this one here. So it kind of builds it up diagonally. Look how pretty that is. So I have that the way I like it. I've kind of pushed it all down, let the glue stick really well. We've got different layers. So now I'm going to get my Stampin' Seal Plus and put some on the back. And then we're going to attach that to our Blackberry Bliss. And then we're going to add some more Stampin' Seal Plus. And I use the Stampin' Seal Plus for this because it's a little heavier duty, and this is going to get a lot of use. So now I just line the top of the card up with the Blackberry Bliss at the top and kind of center it. Like that. Look how pretty that is. So that is perfect. We'll put some embellishments on after we do the back. So now we're just going to do the back. So I'm going to grab my other piece of white and we're going to do a little stamping. So I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm going to grab this flower here. And I think we'll use the Berry Burst. Just stamp, and I'm going to stamp off on the edge. See, this is the one that has the weird little dots, but that's okay. And I'm going to just stamp down here like that. Look how pretty it is. All right, clean that off. And then I have a mask I created, so I'm going to put that over my flower, and then I'm going to grab that greenery that we used earlier, and I'm just going to use this little block here, and I'm going to grab the lemon lime twist, and I'm going to ink that up, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of greenery, so maybe there and there, and then I'm going to move this away. So that's done. That's a super easy way to do it. So whenever I'm cutting my dies, I'll usually do a couple extra and then just keep them in the case, in the stamp case, so that whenever I'm creating a card, I already have some masks that I can use. So this will go back into the box to use later. And then the last thing I want to do is put the message. So it says, wishing you all the happiness in the world. So I'm going to put that on the block, and we'll do that in Blackberry Bliss. Where did I put you? There you are. I'm going to try to get this straight without getting in your way. Okay, it's a little crooked. That's okay. It's hard to do this on a camera and not put my head in the way, so I usually sacrifice it being straight for that, for you to have your view. All right, now we're going to put a little bit of adhesive on the back. Get that little dimensional paper off. There we go. And then we'll do some more adhesive. And then we're just going to put this, make sure you're going in the right direction. And you're just going to leave a small border and pop that down. So there you go. So let's add our embellishments to the front. Let's get all of this out of the way. So now I'm going to grab our brushed brass butterflies. I really like these. These are probably one of my favorite embellishments, and thankfully they've stayed in the catalog because I really like them. So I'm going to add a big butterfly. Let's put a big butterfly here. I like to work in threes, so now we're going to add some little butterflies. Maybe I'll put one right there and one right there. So there we go. These out of the way. So there's our card. There's our tower fold. Look how pretty. It's got a lot of dimension. When you fold it up, see how pretty that paper looks together? So when it comes out of the card, that's how it looks. And it's all color coordinated. It's got some multi-dimensional layers. It stands up perfectly. And you have a ton of space on the back to write your message. And you can decorate your envelope as well with, say, maybe a piece of this paper here so that your envelope is perfectly coordinated. So I hope you love this card as much as I do. I'm going to be making some more of these. Let me show you some other options. This is the same fold, and I created this one with the Sweet Citrus bundle of products. And I use the designer series paper that I have from Celebration. They sold this big old pack of paper, and I love it because it's got so many different colors and in it. It's a really thick pack of paper, so I get a ton of use. This is the same sheet of paper. The back design is this one. Front design was this one. And I added some embellishments to the back, and then on the back I just added a couple other die cuts to write my message. So that is the Sweet Citrus bundle or suite of products. And then I made a Christmas card using the Merry and Bright suite and the Merry and Bright designer series paper. So I did some stamping and fussy cut and created a tree using this is the light bulb topper right here, and I just cut the little piece off of it that it looked like a handle for the string of lights. So cut that off and made a tree trunk. And then I punched out the star from the dies as well. And then just fussy cut these and just laid them out like a tree. And then on the back, just added some stamping, and it makes a super cute little Christmas card. So there are the 3 samples. Tell me which one you love the most. I think any of these would be a great card to give someone you care about. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you need all the cutting instructions and dimensions, card dimensions and scoring, everything will be in my blog along with the products I use. So go ahead and don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel so you never miss a video. I post these every Wednesday, and I hope you can join me with some stamping again next week when we do another great fun fold. I'm Jill, the Wandering Stamper. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you get a chance to craft today.